Hi, my name is Kaarle Parikka and I'm the head of marketing here at Falcony. Welcome to our second launch event of 2022, both to Arttu and of course all of you there on the other side of Zoom. We also have people live on the chat from our side, so as a reminder, feel free to raise any questions. We are more than happy to answer those.
Thank you, Kaarle, and welcome from my part as well. We had a February launch event this year. Feels like it was a couple of weeks ago. Time flies, but that's life, I guess. What's awesome though is what we've been cooking behind the scenes the past 6 months, and it's just really nice to finally pop the hood, so to say.
Agree. We have a lot of great updates to show today.
Totally.
New features, integrations, to name a few. But how about we start with something that truly impacts every single one of our customers?
Let's do it, but before we dig deeper into that, let's put all these updates, new releases, into a bigger context, bigger perspective. Like many of you may have heard, the past year we have talked a lot about involvement and why it matters. What involvement is, it's predominantly a shift that's taking place in every employee's minds. With Spotify's, WhatsApp's, Wolt's, Uber's, Airbnb's, all these nice apps we use in our consumer lives, it has created kind of like the same expectation for easy to use, on-demand, involving experiences at workplace too.
Exactly, and at the same time, we want to do work that matters. We all want to have a voice.
Yes, but not the social media type of voice.
True.
What we actually want is we want to be involved. When we open our mouths, say something, and we roll our sleeves, we want to know that something actually happens.
Could you define this kind of involvement a bit more in detail?
Sure. So, like a good way to contrast involvement is with a similar kind of word called engagement, which is sometimes used as a synonym, especially in the digital marketing side. But involvement is definitely not engagement. Whereas engagement is more about like a passive acceptance of something. Let's say in social media, for example, you passively click, like, or do something. Involvement, on the other hand, always requires awareness and thoughtful action. It's the active pursuit of something that matters to you or me or whoever as an employee or as a person. So for example, you might care about safety, well-being at work, risk management, customers a lot, customer experience, or just simply doing better work. So to summarize, involvement is about actively raising your voice when you see something's not right and being part of what happens to it based on when you open your mouth. And the more people involved, the more and better information there is for everyone, especially for the managers.
Makes sense. So to better manage anything where human input is basically needed, you need to get everyone involved just to understand what's going on.
Yes, exactly. But here's the problem. So whatever the context, let's say safety or compliance or tenant experience, there's a huge gap between supply and demand of involvement. From the demand side, there's almost a never-ending hunger for more information by the management. But then again, on the supply side, what we've noticed is that in typical reporting systems or feedback systems, it's like a typical standard is that it's like a 10% of people only who are actively reporting, sharing their voice. And we call this involvement gap, and it leads to all sorts of problems.
True. So why most companies fail, now if we're talking for example about safety, why most companies fail to achieve the goal of zero accidents, it's not actually because they lack in the system, it's because they fail to involve.
Yeah, which is often called like safety culture.
Yeah.
You have better safety culture if you have more involvement. That's like a really simple way to put it.
Yeah.
On a similar note, let's look at another example. Why most companies fail to deliver great tenant or customer experiences is because they fail to involve their staff and service providers to deliver consistent and seamless experiences and seamless communication and processes.
Exactly. And the list goes on.
Yeah, on and on.
Basically, for almost any process and function, there are a lot of managers whose work is highly dependent on involving other people.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before as well. The hammer to typically solve this or try to solve this problem is to buy or build another management system on top of already existing ones. So in our view, this is not a smart thing to do.
And why is that?
Well, let's look at a pretty typical situation, pretty typical example. A company might have several reporting systems. Let's say a couple for safety, one covering accidents, another one for near misses and safety reporting, safety observations. Then they might have one for maintenance, where you need to put service requests and work orders, another one for quality, so product defects and non-conformities. Then there might be for environmental issues, IT security, operations, then initiatives and ideas, and many, many more.
True. So what this means in practice is that basically the whole marketplace of management and reporting systems, they're full of these kind of siloed systems.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like a really typical situation where management system mindset is working hard. Looking at this example, what do you, Kaarle, think? What happens in a situation? What would the employees do when they notice an issue or in their mind something's not right? What would they do?
Well, I think that if it's severe enough, they most likely report it to the system that they're most accustomed to.
Yeah, if it's severe enough.
Yeah.
But I'd say in the most common scenarios, they just simply do nothing. It's just too difficult or whatever. And where all this leads to is a huge spending on unused software.
True. And even when people do find the system and actually use it to report the observation, when we were talking about these kind of siloed solutions, that information then ends up in this kind of a limited space where not a lot of people have access to it.
Yeah, there might be like multiple of these functional silos. There's a problem that many can agree with, and at least I do. And I guess even in those situations, it might be a situation employees actually report something, it ends up in a wrong silo, and they get blamed for it. Of course, they will never report anything again if they get blamed for reporting something.
True. So in the end, we can identify that there's this huge need for data, but at the same time, our decisions are creating these kind of artificial barriers.
Yeah. And these barriers come, of course, in many kinds. It might be technological, so people might find it too difficult to use. It might be psychological. I don't know where this issue belongs. It might be cultural. It might be that there's a language barrier. A company using only the corporate language, for example. But if we put this another way, the more reporting systems you have, they always end up competing of the employee's attention, leading to fewer information. And then again, most employees might not even make a distinction, make a difference between what is a safety observation versus a service request. Then again, it might actually be the same. One observation might belong to multiple departments.
True. But in the end, they would still like to report those findings, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people do care about their work, where they work, how they work, who they work with, and they actually want to improve these conditions.
So playing this management system game, if you call it that way, it's kind of doomed in the current on-demand, remote-heavy environment we all live in.
Yeah, because the people's expectations have changed. So that's why these typical reporting solutions, whether they're pen and paper, mobile phone calls or emails or some really siloed solutions, they just simply typically can't satisfy the employee's need to be involved. What it requires is a new mindset, involvement mindset. So instead of talking about one-directional reporting, where employees just put the information somewhere and never heard about it, it's about two-way involvement, like communication between both higher levels and frontline. Instead of pushing several management systems to the frontline, it's about enabling involvement with just one hyper easy-to-use interface. 3, instead of treating observations from just one function's point of view, any observation, like I said, should and pretty much can belong to multiple functions. And lastly, instead of blaming employees for using the wrong reporting channel, it's about encouraging everyone to tell us what we need to know, who should know about those, because those frontline employees are the people who are aware of the issues.
Exactly. So we could say that most of the processes can be defined through this involvement methodology. Whatever your process is, ranging from auditing to whistleblowing and everything in between. Where one would typically start is by defining the process, then organizing the people who are taking part in the process, then documenting the process and codifying it into small actionable practices. With checklists and report templates, you can then start sharing observations of them.
Correct. And like you said, this is what we call involvement methodology, which helps any company, any function, any team turn their current practices, left-hand side, to observations, actions, improvements, and ultimately new and better practices.
Exactly. But many organizations still face a problem, and that problem being where to start.
Yes, sir. So that's the define stage of the methodology. No company, I'd say not a single one, can involve everyone for everything immediately. They have to start somewhere. But even creating simple data gathering procedures, like let's say safety walks or near-miss reporting, tenant announcements, quality inspections, where they often start with is you go to Google, you fiercely Google stuff, try to find information, then you probably reinvent the wheel of what the template looks like.
True.
And finally you may end up to the management system game by comparing different management system features.
True. That's a big barrier for most companies, I'd say, to implement any process basically that would fully work. It almost feels like some of the software that is in use has been implemented to be a replacement for the process.
Some of the time that is true. Most companies, I'd say, really don't have the time, resources, knowledge, or expertise to invent and define like good inspection and audit templates and reporting processes, for example.
But today, this is going to change.
Yes.
We're going to remove the obstacles for new templates and make it clearer than ever what involvement truly is when distilled into small pieces.
Yes, and we're going to show that even the best of the best experts who've created these perfectly working top-notch audit templates, inspection templates, reporting forms can actually benefit from them. That is by sharing them. Today, Falcony is launching a template library.
The template library brings templates for all of your needs and processes. Let's have a closer look. What this is in plain English is a collection of audit, observation, request, order, form, announcement, risk assessment, the list goes on and on. Templates that any one of you can find and utilize from our open website with just a few clicks. You can already navigate to templates.falcony.io and have a look at our template library yourself.
That is templates.library.io. Really looks amazing, even after seeing it for so many times.
So Arttu, we have 3 tenets to remember why this library is going to be great. First of all, there are other so-called template libraries out there, but we have sort of identified that they have become more of a pile of paper, so to say, than an interesting source of best practices. And why is that?
I guess the reason relates to the fact that for a library to be useful, like this kind of template library, each template has to be valuable on its own. I mean, if you end up finding a like completely useless template, why would you keep looking for more?
True. So that's the first tenet. Quality Instead of aiming for quantity at first, we promise that the quality of the templates for everything that we offer and also what the community adds there is of high value. Which brings us to the second tenet. This is a community-driven effort. Anybody can and should suggest templates to be added there.
Yeah, and we actually encourage you to do that.
Exactly. How this works in practice is that we will have a curation process to keep the quality high, but we certainly know that the true experts in the multiple fields that we serve are there on the other side of Zoom.
Yes, so by sharing your best practices, what you'll get is three things. 1, visibility in the library. 2, respect from the community. And of course, 3, good karma.
So each template needs to be valuable, and we aim to increase the number of them with the help of you, the community.
All right, so that's 2 tenets. What about the third?
Well, great question. The more templates there are, then the question becomes how can one find what is relevant for them, what is valuable for them. So whether you're an SME looking for a incident management process or a publicly traded company looking for an off-the-shelf whistleblowing solution,
or whatever, like let's say work permit solution.
Exactly.
You might need couple work permit templates for hot works or whatever, or facilities management processes, etc.
Exactly. So no matter how many templates there are, we promise that we will keep the library actionable.
Yes, and to make it actionable, what we need is context. Mm-hmm. So what's best practice for what kind of industry, what kind of vertical, use case, regulation, function, culture, and even season or time of the day, for example.
And how that works is with great search and different kinds of filters. Find the relevant, verify it, and in the end implement it with just a couple clicks.
Sounds easy, like it is. So, what's next for the template library? What do we have planned?
So this is obviously the starting point of the template library. So there's a lot of things that we haven't implemented in the first phase. One of those being support for multiple languages. So if you already navigated to templates.falcony.io, you can see that the template library is currently available only in English. Although I must say that, of course, we have the content available within our platform in multiple languages, so that can be already offered to you in multiple languages, but we will also localize the template library into multiple languages, so you can browse the content in your native language.
Yes.
So that is one thing. How about the quantity?
Yeah, so now we have somewhere around 100 templates there, all good quality, of course. But that's going to scale fast. So soon there's going to be 300, 500, and up to 1,000 or more templates. And we're going to keep the quality high, like we promise. Something else?
There is.
Good.
To make it even more helpful for certain industries and use cases, we want to introduce bundles. Bundles in this context meaning collection of templates that suit a specific use case.
Yeah, so for example, if you are a person responsible for safety, you might want to have a complete solution of safety-related templates for reporting different types of observations, inspections, and audits.
Exactly.
Bundle would cover all of those.
Yeah.
Same applies for different other use cases like quality. And of course, it covers industry-specific needs always.
So with the help of the library, whether you're a newcomer, so to say, or a seasoned veteran, there will always be curated content for you to go through, review, and in the end, maybe implement to your own use.
Yes. And one of the reasons why we see this template library to be a game changer is because it helps to define what is at the heart, what is at the core of involvement. People reporting observations and doing actions. So observations and actions.
True. And like you said, game changer. Why we think it's a game changer is that when it's hyper easy to find new templates, it'll be faster to implement new processes, and it'll enable even more organizations to implement the best practices in reporting, auditing, and ultimately involvement.
Yes, which should propel even more iterations of new and better templates, sharing them in the library, and learning from each other, learning from the community.
Exactly. In the end, with the template library, it'll be easier to involve more people for more observations.
So, what we're really saying here is that you will actually only need one platform for all types of observations, inspections, reporting, and audits. Really, just one.
True. And like we said, this is a community-driven effort, so please share your thoughts, ideas, comments on what we should add to the library in the chat. Like said multiple times, we always appreciate your feedback and comments.
Yeah, and speaking about feedback, we had a few roundtable events during the spring. We will be continuing those, and we will also go through these templates that we have and upcoming ones in those roundtable events, for which we are already collecting participants today.
Mentioning the collection of attendees, you can find the link to the roundtable events now on the Zoom chat. Please fill in the form that you can find on the page, showcase your interest, and we'll make sure that we keep you updated for the topics that are of your interest. Thank you, Arttu.
Thank you, Maestro.
Thank you. We'll be having a short couple-minute break, and after that we'll be back with our Chief Operating Officer, Anthony Jones, to talk about a new interesting feature. See you soon. Welcome back, and welcome, Andy.
Well, thank you very much, Kaarle.
Statistics it is, but how do they link the involvement methodology?
Yeah, so let's look at the methodology in depth to grasp that. So basically, the involvement, of course, happens at every level on the organization. So as Arttu just was talking, our philosophy has always been to push the data to the front line, so that basically more people would be involved. So of course then well-made reports help in this endeavor, and help to explain to the actual user why the audits, observations, reports, feedback and announcements actually matter.
Exactly. So ultimately, it helps to turn those observations into insights, lessons learned, and better ways of doing things. This again drives even more involvement. So feature-wise, what has changed?
Yeah, so basically regarding the statistics, we now are introducing saved statistics. As many of you already might remember that you could save the statistics queries as URL or bookmarks by using the URL. But now it's actually then being introduced in the app itself. You can give them a nice name, and also then you can create the different reports so that you can then actually share them internally.
Great. And could you explain a bit more detail, like the benefits of this?
Yeah, and I've got an example here. So basically, if, for example, you're a regional manager, you can see your KPIs easily without having to worry about searching for the information every time. And I know that in some cases, like regional managers, for example, or like mid managers haven't been bothered to do their reports, but it's only like the admins who have been doing them. So basically this saves a lot of time, and instead of data we can actually show information.
Sounds really good. Any other examples?
Yeah, so an example of how it works is basically that the admin, or with our help, we can set up some basic reports of statistics. And the great thing is that the user rights that are already set up for the organization, they automatically limit what is seen by each individual in the organization. So as an example, if we have a retail company, and we set up the statistics for them, for example, audits that have been done during the year over all different stores. Then the admin sees all the stores, the regional manager only the stores in their region, and the store manager will only see the same report but with only their store. And that's only with one saved report.
Okay, so the same report will achieve all those different levels.
Exactly.
Really good. Any more examples?
Yeah, sure. So here, for example, we're looking at a pivot table. So this, of course, has been there earlier, but here's a nice, easy example, which shows template-specific audit scores over time, grouped by different locations. So it shows you what is happening, where it is happening, and when it is happening. Another good report to save on the pivot table is like uncompleted audits per location. And that's also a pivot grid example.
Nice. How about bar charts? Anything we have for those?
Yeah, so if we go to the bar charts, basically some examples are incidents or observations by type over time or by location. So just to get a quick overview, like a visual overview of what's happening, and kind of a heat map of the areas that you want to focus your limited efforts to.
Those are good ones. Another bar chart report related to tenant experience is an announcement sent per month or per week. From tenant's point of view, the regularity of those announcements is sometimes or even often more important than the amount of information.
Yes, exactly. Feed it to them in small bites.
True that. How about observation and audits report? Tables, I mean.
Yeah, the tables, this is a good one because we basically introduced the table type reports as a kind of fix for custom-made data clips. Some of you in our audience might remember these data clips, and but we've actually been quite surprised on how well it's been like gathering usage over time. And yeah, now basically also the saved feature reaches over to this side of the thing as well. So you can basically do your filtering, add the columns you want, and save that as a report to be shared.
Really good. And now that we're talking about the tables, are there some example reports that we could showcase?
Yeah, so for example, this, some examples, I've got 3. So whistleblowing cases, it's a good one. So where the status, in that table you could have the status and severity of the cases that can be then tracked. Another one, risk register, reports that can basically work as a company or unit level risk register. And then internal audit reports could be there as well on a separate report where every audit observation has its own row.
Exactly. And hey, by the way, if you have any ideas or comments regarding the reports besides the ones that Andy mentioned, remember to share your feedback in the chat. I keep repeating myself, but this is super important. Share those insights with us so that we know what you need when it comes to the reports.
Exactly, and also contact us in support, and we're happy to help with setting anything up for you.
Exactly. And hey, one thing, we'll also be sharing a link in the chat where you can access an open link in Falcony where we ask you some questions about, for example, the reports being one, so remember to use that as well. Okay, how about the rollout of the saved searches? What does this mean for our end users?
That's a good question, and probably the most important thing in this small speech. So basically we have the rollout in 2 phases. The first stage will be so that the save report, save statistics will be only private. So it changes very little from what it has been. And if you have any of those bookmarks saved, what it will do when you open the bookmark, it will prompt you to give that saved statistic a name and save it, so that you can then view it through the app directly. And then the next stage, which will be in a month or so, is that we're going to launch the possibility to make any of these reports public. So then we'll have both private reports and public reports. And as mentioned, for the public, the user rights will basically dictate what is shown.
Yeah.
For all of this, we'll be sending emails out to remind you about this, and you can of course contact us if you have any specific questions.
Exactly. So Andy, what would you say is the ultimate outcome of the new saved searches?
Yeah, so the ultimate outcome, I guess, kind of goes back to what Arttu was talking about, the whole involvement. But of course, in like a very hands-down situation, it makes it easier for the key users to kind of create the reports for the organization and share them both up and downstream in their organization. But also, of course, also to kind of involve the very kind of lowest level of employees, like the reporter, the basic user, if you like, because they also see the reports. And through that they can kind of see how their actions are in helping the business forward and affecting it positively.
True. So talking about business outcomes, what would those be?
Yeah, so as most people over in Zoom as well, and I'm not sure you do, know that most of the information gathered through Falcony is something related to early warning signals.
True.
So safety observations, of course, hint about a possible risk of accidents, near misses as well, of course. Unauthorized visitors tell about security risks and so on. So not only when these happen, these like big serious events, that's where like most people, even it's compulsory to report if it's like really severe. But like when they happen, they of course affect cash flow, the income statements, accidents lead to lost work days and so on. So what we're kind of hoping is to include or like help the statistics lower the risk of this type of business outcomes, like negative business outcomes.
And why should our listeners care about this, and why now?
Well, by understanding that it's not just a single severe incident, but there's a long tail of a lot of stuff that is like the near misses that never are reported. So and such stuff, which kind of goes back to what Arttu was talking about, or the involvement gap. So we want people to be involved. We want the long tail of these incident or like risks and near misses to be reported.
Leading indicators.
The leading indicators, exactly. So and that's only kind of possible if you involve as many people as possible.
I fully agree. Lots of involvement.
Exactly.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Kaarle.
Like said, please share your thoughts in the Zoom. We will also provide a link there to book a short meeting with our customer success team. So feel free to use that as well. This concludes this segment with Andy. We'll take a short break and we'll be back then with our customer success manager, Kasper Lönnqvist, to talk about another interesting feature. See you soon. Welcome back. Next up, I have my colleague Kasper here to discuss a feature that has sparked a lot of interest. Welcome, Kasper.
Thanks. And hello, I'm Kasper Lönnqvist. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Falcony. And I would like to show you our linked observations feature together with Kaarle today and walk through a few of its common use cases and the features that it has.
That's right. As we all know, nothing happens in a vacuum. Things lead into other things, and one event can often trigger others. A leak is reported and assigned to the office manager, who then in turn makes a ticket out of it and creates tasks for maintenance to fix the pipe, and another task for the service crew to clean up the mess. So as we can see, one safety hazard can lead into multiple actionable points. Or another thing, a sensitive subject is reported but needs the involvement of a different set of observation participants.
Yeah, so wouldn't it be nice to be able to link all of these separate yet connected events together? This is a reason why we have developed linked observations here at Falcony. So using linked observations, it's possible to connect several different observations together, providing a link between these observations, tasks, and investigations. So by viewing one observation, you can easily see and navigate to all of the observations that are related to that.
So it's possible to create more specific observations linking to previous events.
Yes, exactly. So what happens to an observation after it has been reported often defines the quality of that interaction. When you're able to manage all your tasks from one place, you have better oversight of what has happened and what needs to be done.
Exactly. Meaning that by increasing the quantity of observations, we are actually also at the same time organically improving their quality.
Yeah, and with that, which results in greater user involvement.
Exactly. And can you elaborate on the common use cases of these so-called linked observations?
Certainly. So let's start with subtasks. So sometimes one event triggers the need to delegate several tasks to others. Now what we've done here is we've streamlined the process of creating and delegating tasks with our linked observations feature. So the creation of subtasks is made simple when you're just one click away from actually reporting them. So as an example, let's say a plant manager receives a Falcony report Falcony observation about a power failure. Mm-hmm. This plant manager sees that this will require some fixing, so he creates a task to dispatch the maintenance crew. Within the observation, he scrolls down to the linked observations section and just clicks report observation. And from the menu here of different categories, he selects the appropriate one, so maintenance tasks. And there he just simply writes down the order or what needs to be done so that the maintenance crew knows what they need to do. And since this observation is automatically assigned to the maintenance crew, all he needs to do is just hit send, and that automatically creates the observation and it triggers a notification to the assignee. And once it is created, it automatically is also linked to the parent observation, which in this case is the power failure observation. So in this view, you can see if the observation is open or closed. You can see who it is assigned to, and by clicking the linked observation, you can also easily navigate to that observation as well. So once the maintenance task has been completed, it's visible from here, and the office manager will know, or the plant manager will know if anything further is needed, or if he can just go ahead and close this parent observation as well. Right,
so we could say the linked observations are useful for managing subtasks and having oversight of all the pieces relating to an observation. What other common use cases can you say?
Yeah, so linked observations is an absolute necessity when it comes to handling sensitive information. So for example, if the reporter should not be involved in the follow-up section at all, it's necessary to create another observation with a limited number of participants in it. And that's the case, for instance, with our whistleblowing product, where the observation itself only contains, well, firstly, what has been reported, but it also contains only the conclusions and further steps, and that's visible to the reporter, while the internal investigation takes place internally, and that's only accessible to the whistleblowing investigators.
Exactly. As people are most likely interested to hear this a bit more in detail, could you walk us through the different steps when it comes to using the linked observations in the whistleblowing context?
Sure. Yeah. So the whistleblower reports a observation through an open link, mm-hmm. and when he or she does that, he receives generated credentials so that he can log in and first of all view what he has reported, but also see all the further steps that have been taken, and also maintain a dialogue with the investigators in the comments section. And from here, he can also provide further information if needed. But it's important here to know that the anonymous reporter does not have access to anything in the investigation. So the users will only be able to see what they have viewing rights to. And in the case of anonymous whistleblowing, reporters can only see their own report. So everything written in the investigation remains only for select eyes.
Mm-hmm. So this means that it's possible to have a related observation linked, but with limited visibility. Whistleblowing is well, one of the most obvious use cases for the linked observation, but can it be used in any situation that includes sensitive information?
Yeah, of course. So as long as the viewing rights are set up accordingly, this use case can be fitted to any organization. The opposite effect can also be achieved. So if, for instance, a accident is reported and only management has viewing rights to that, if something is learned from this, or some useful information that would be beneficial for everybody at the company to know, you can create, for instance, a lessons learned type observation from that, link that to the accident, and have the lessons learned observation visible to everybody at the company. And there you'd have the most important things, just omit all the personal details from the actual accident or whatever had originally happened.
Great. So does this cover the most common use cases, or do you have still some additional use cases in mind?
Yeah, so if one event causes the creation of several different observations, it's useful to be able to link these together. True. So let's say that, for instance, there's an oil spill in the warehouse, and this is reported in Falcony along with the safety observation that there's a slippery floor here. Now, if some accident happens or a near miss happens because of this slippery floor, before anyone can actually clear that area, and that accident would be reported in Falcony. It's good to have a clear link of this is the cause, this is what happened. So these are all separate events, but they all share the same root cause. So when following up on this accident or near miss, it's good to have a clear view of what caused it. And so these separate events, they're linked and connected through this link.
And easy to follow. Yeah. We talked a lot with Arttu and Andy about involvement. So what's your take? How does the linked observation link to the bigger picture of involvement methodology?
Yeah, so linked observations can be categorized within the collaborate stage of the methodology, where one or more people collaborate around handling the issues and tasks. There are different ways to collaborate, and we want our platform to support the existing best practices already in use and not force anybody to adapt their practices around the software.
Yeah, and now that we have people on the other side of Zoom interested to implement the linked observation, what does that mean in practice? How are they able to do so? And if so, are there any costs associated with this feature?
Yeah, so some of our customers already have this feature in use, but for those who don't, linked observations is an add-on feature that costs 50 euros a month on top of your existing subscription.
Great. Thank you, Kasper. I'm sure that this has sparked some ideas for our audience on how to utilize the linked observations to increase the involvement and raise the quality and quantity of reported observations.
Yeah, my pleasure, Kaarle.
We will now head again to a short break, and after that our Chief Product Officer Konsta Vesterinen will join us to discuss the integrations and the future releases of Falcony. We'll be right back. Welcome back and welcome to the Integration Grill Konsta.
Thank you, Kaarle. Always a pleasure.
Involvement methodology we've been speaking about a lot today.
Yeah, so with integrations, you could say that they are pretty much part of every stage of this process. With integrations, they make it easier to import data from external systems to Falcony, and also they make it easier to export data from Falcony to any external system.
And for us, mere humans, not so tech savvy, could you open up that a bit more?
Yeah, so sure, we have new APIs for example, for identity management systems, HR systems, and Microsoft AD. And this helps, for example, organization admins to be able to automatically update, delete, and add new users in Falcon system. And this, of course, saves a lot of time from organization admins.
For sure. And I guess the same could apply to places as well.
Yes, definitely. Many times our customers have, for example, a property management system, which they are using as a master data for their places. And we have ready-made APIs which can be used in parallel with these systems. And by using this integration, you no longer have to update the places inside Falcony as an organization admin. You can just use the integration for that.
Sounds really good. Anything else?
Yeah, so we've introduced an API for importing data for individual observation questions. This means that you can have, for example, your products, customers, sales orders, projects as searchable items for select or multi-set questions. A practical example would be, for example, that you are, let's say, reporting shoplifting observations, and you want to associate those with certain products that you are selling. So you can have these products as searchable select fields inside that form.
Makes sense. How about exporting data? Do you have, or do we have something new related to those?
Yes, sir, we do. So previously we only had the analyst database, but nowadays customers can also use webhooks in order to get real-time API notifications of reported observations. Again, this is a bit technical term, this webhooks, but this basically means that you can, for example, set up SMS alerts of certain types of observations. Let's say you have really some critical observation and you want to always to receive a text message of those.
Great. Are there any other potential use cases for these so-called webhooks?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the use cases are almost limitless. You could set up, for example, as said, text messages. You could set up Slack or, let's say, WhatsApp notifications. You could show the information in digital bulletin boards, or you can even use it for some Internet of Things kind of integration where you show a flashing light or ring a bell when some observation happens.
Cool. I know that there's a lot of information going back and forth between our platform and our customers. So are there any changes with the analytics database?
Yeah, so sure, let's first clarify what that means. Many of our customers are already using this analytics database, but some of you may not know what it means. So the most common use cases for our analytics database is that you want to export the data from our database to your own data warehouse, and then you want to visualize the data using, let's say, Power BI, Qlik, or some other BI tool. So this is what our analytics database helps with. And then in the past, we only had a data frequency interval of 1 day, meaning that the data there is always 1 day old. But nowadays we also offer real-time data access there, which can be ordered from us.
Nice. How about insurance company integrations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So previously we only had, we only supported a couple of insurance companies in Finland, but nowadays we have integrations to all big 4 Finnish insurance companies, meaning that when the integration is set up for a certain insurance company, all the accidents that get reported in Falcony will then automatically generate insurance claims in the insurance company system.
So in practice, it means that there's no need for manual input of the accident information than to the...
Exactly. It saves a lot of time.
Sounds really good. How about service requests?
Yeah, so this is pretty similar to insurance company integrations, but with a small twist. So many of our customers are using Falcony to report something related to their properties. And usually they would like to generate service requests based on these observations that they have made for these properties. And with the service request integration, we can automatically create these service requests in the property management system or in the maintenance company system. And not only do we create the service requests, but we can also receive notifications when the service request gets closed in the maintenance company system.
So it's a two-way integration.
Yes, exactly. So as said, like when the service request gets closed, that will then automatically close the observation also in Falcony.
Great. I think my head is spinning a bit with integrations right now. If any of you listeners out there have any questions regarding integrations or you have a specific need in mind, please let us know. Like always, we are more than happy to discuss with you in more detail how we could help you. And yeah, there's also the customer success meeting link that we have already shared before, so you can use that to book a meeting with Kasper that we had on the stage previously, or Katri, to discuss your needs in more details.
Good stuff.
Okay, Konsta, let's move on to the next big feature that we've been cooking under the hood. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so our next big feature is called audit scheduling. Our whole dev team is working towards that goal, and it will be part of the next launch event. With audit scheduling, it is possible for organization admins to create plans for audits, what kind of audits need to be conducted and when, and how often should these audits reoccur.
And have I understood correctly that these schedules can be both like one-off or recurring?
Yes, exactly. So I'll try to give a practical example. Let's say you want to set up a plan where each manager in southern Finland needs to conduct risk assessment every quarter. Then you want to easily track the progress of the schedule. You want to know which managers have conducted the audits in time and which have missed the deadlines.
True. Talking about deadlines, do we have something in mind to help our customers to make sure that no deadlines are missed?
Yes, there will be reminders and there will be automatic email messages for these reminders.
Great. I know that this feature has been requested a lot, so it's really nice to finally be able to push it out early next year.
Yep, agreed. And this is also something that we are going to bring up in the upcoming roundtable events.
Talking about roundtable events, once again, the link to those events will be shared in the chat. So like I said earlier, share or express your interest towards the roundtable events that suit your interest, and we'll make sure that we'll keep you up to date about exact dates and times of those events. And we'll also be sharing more details around today's topics in the coming days. Thank you, Konsta.
Thank you, Kaarle.
And especially thanks for all of our listeners and all of you that are watching this as a recording later on. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. See you next time.
Thank you all.